In this part of the HealthWealth Orphan Drug Investor Toolkit video series, we're taking a look at the regulatory pathways for the approval as well as the timelines for the approval of orphan drugs. Although I have a PhD in biomedical engineering and over 15 years of working experience in the healthcare industry, I do not intend to give you investment advice. Please do your own research before making any investments. You are watching Health Wealth. If you're new to this channel, welcome. If you're not, nice to have you back. So let's now take a look at the regulatory timelines and pathways, both in the US as well as in Europe. The timeline of the review for the orphan drug application is about 90 days, both in the US as well as in Europe. However, a key point to understand from an investment point of view is that being granted orphan drug status does not actually mean that a medication is authorized to be sold commercially on the market. Before an orphan drug can commercially be sold, it needs to be approved either by the FDA for the US market or receive the market authorization for the European market. And in this chapter of the video, we're looking at precisely the timelines for the latter. These regulatory timelines may also be of key importance to investors because the sooner a medication can be brought to market, the sooner benefits can be reaped and may have impacts on the stock price. In the US, it is the so-called fast-track designations, which helps to bring a new treatment or a new drug quicker through the regulatory pathway. The fast-track designation is designed to facilitate the expedited review of new drugs or treatments, to treat serious conditions, and to fill an unmet medical need. In order to be eligible for the fast-track designation, the new drug or treatment must show a superior effectiveness, avoid serious side effects of already existing therapies, improving the diagnosis of a serious conditions where early diagnosis results in an improved patient outcome, decrease clinically significant toxicity of an already available therapy that is common and causes discomfort of the treatment, and the ability to address emerging or anticipated public health needs. The fast-track designation offers the following advantages. More frequent meetings with the FDA allow the applicant and the FDA to discuss the drug's development plan and to ensure that the clinical trials that are planned are appropriate to facilitate the quick approval of that new drug. It also ensures more frequent written communication from the FDA about such important information as the design of the proposed clinical trials and the use of biomarkers. Fast-track designation may make the orphan drug also eligible for accelerated approval and priority review if certain criteria are met. And finally, the so-called rolling review. In order to have a new drug or biologic to be authorized by the FDA, a so-called IND, Investigational New Drug Application, or BLA, Biologics License Application, must be filed by the company. Normally, all sections of these applications must be submitted together and in full. However, the rolling review allows that the individual chapters of these applications can be submitted as soon as they are ready, while in parallel, the applicant continues to work on the subsequent chapters. Depending on the needs and the type of product, FDA have several different routes for accelerated regulatory approval. I leave a link to the website in the description below. So let's then take a look at what accelerated regulatory approval routes the European Medicines Agency has. In the European Union, there is one route for faster regulatory approval, and that is through the Priorities Medicine or PRIME designation. The Priority Medicine scheme is not necessarily only aimed at orphan drugs. It is aimed at supporting medicines that target an unmet medical need. This voluntary scheme is based on enhanced interactions and early dialogue with the developers of promising medicines and to optimize the development plans and to speed up the evaluation so that these medicines can reach the patients sooner by being approved through the regulatory pathway. The PRIME scheme fosters early dialogue between the applicant, that is, the developer of a new medical drug, and EMA, and is aimed at improving the clinical trial design to ensure that the data that is generated as part of those clinical trials is suitable for obtaining the marketing authorization. In order to be eligible for the PRIME designation, a novel medicine must meet the following criteria. It must have a major therapeutic advantage over existing treatments. It must benefit patients without an existing treatment option, and early clinical data must demonstrate the potential benefit to patients with an unmet medical need. This will lead then to an accelerated assessment of the marketing authorization application, and in this case, the EMA's Committee for Medicinal Products for Human Use, CHMP, may reduce the review timeline from the normal 210 days down to 150. So let's summarize the key points. When a drug or novel treatment is awarded the orphan drug status, that does not mean it is authorized to be commercially sold. Investors should always keep this important fact in mind before making any investments into companies which have programs in place that have been awarded the orphan drug status. Thus, being granted the orphan drug status guarantee market authorization and therefore being able to commercialize the developed treatment? The answer here is most definitely not. In fact, in an FAQ document on orphan drugs, which was published by EMA, I leave a link to it in the description below, we can see that the success rate to obtain orphan drug designation is 66%. And based on the available data by EMA, only 8% of those medicines actually have reached the market as an orphan medicine, meaning they were commercially approved. I'm also leaving a link to this interesting article published in 2013 in the Journal of Expert Opinion on Orphan Drugs. Here is an excerpt from a table summarizing the various rules and regulations and requirements for orphan drugs in Europe, the US, as well as in Japan. So, if you're an investor in the healthcare sector, specifically potentially gene editing through CRISPR-Cas9, you may have come across the orphan drug status in your research before. Keep in mind that orphan drug status is awarded in general to treatments that address an unmet clinical need and generally provide clinical superior treatments. Although the market opportunity for an orphan drug, due to its link to often rare diseases, is limited, the financial incentives nevertheless make it a lucrative or potentially lucrative investment. Be aware of the risks. Just like any other clinical trial can fail, so can clinical trials for orphan drugs. In your investment decisions, you may also wish to consider that the profit margins on successfully commercialized orphan drugs is oftentimes substantially higher than that of normal drugs. It can be up to 80%, whereas the pharmaceutical industry standard is more on the order of roughly 16%. I hope this video has prepared you to navigate the complicated world of orphan drugs and allows you to make smart investment decisions. If I have successfully managed to accomplish these goals, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel.